to carry them through this set.
I really hope we see this Grimstar. It's not a common Pokemon you see right now, but it can pay huge dividends to the late game and mid game, of course, or even early game. Once you get those screens up, it's there forever.
Yeah, the Thunder Wave option too, another speed control choice that Charlotte has, and Grimstar too, another Pokemon that does pretty well into that Dark type Urshifu, as we are seeing it straight away next to the Hearthflame Ogerpon with the Water type Ogerpon, the Wellspring Mask, next to an Incineroar for Rosemary's side.
A little bit of a disadvantage in terms of the water versus fire here, but again, those screens are going to be huge. That can mitigate quite a bit of damage, and if you can be lucky to get off that Sword Stance, it's going to look real scary.
Oh yeah, neither Pokemon on Rosemary's side is able to hit the Hearthflame Ogerpon right now super effectively.
Exactly.
So you get a Reflect Up, potentially gives the option for a Sword Stance there. We do have the Intimidate, though, so without a Sword Stance boost for the Hearthflame Ogerpon,
it's not going to be doing much damage.
No, certainly, because it also doesn't hit either the Pokemon on Rosemary's side super effective.
Now, it's going to be interesting to see what Incineroar goes for here, too, right? That parting shot could mean even less damage coming out for Charlotte here. So it's going to be interesting to see what it chooses to do. Only 2 seconds left, and you're cutting it close. Oh, we made it. Spiky Shield, a great choice. Going on just to scout out, see what's going to happen. And of course, you get some of that really nice chip damage, which is going to be really, really good behind these reflect screens right now.
Oh, yeah, the Ivy Cudgel from Rosemary's Ogerpon comes out into Grimstar, and we see right there the immediate impact of the Reflect. That Ivy Cudgel, not even a 2-hit KO with Reflect Up. Just, and likely an Ogerpon that's trained to be pretty offensive. It has the Sword Stance option.
Yeah, I got to say, that's a pretty bulky Grimstar, too. I mean, despite the screens, that's a nice hit. Still looking green out here, too. Okay, we'll take that.
Yeah, so you would think Charlotte has a very strong first turn. Keeps the Incineroar on the field, which is very, very important. Incineroar, the kind of Pokemon that loves and is most effective cycling in and out of a game. You have to click Parting Shot and then to have the threat to bring it back in for another Intimidate.
I love the choice to go into the Grimstar slot too, because you know for sure that thing's clicking a screen of some sort, right? So you know it's a safe bet to throw some damage into that slot before it changes up. And now we see the Raging Bolt coming out and a Wood Hammer coming from this Ogerpon. Oh, that's a pretty good hit. Whoa.
That's a pretty good hit. And we see even at -1 attack on this Hearthflame Ogerpon, still enough to 2-hit KO this Ogerpon. Could be a damage roll, but a Parting Shot finally does land into the Hearthflame Ogerpon, providing a little bit more security for the Wellspring Ogerpon that just set up a Sword Stance.
Yes, it's the true duality of man. We saw the Parting Shot on the one side, we see a Sword Stance on the other. It's getting crazy.
Yeah, and now we can see the 2 Pokemon that Rosemary has in the back, of course, leaning into that faster mode with the Tornadus coming in the back end. But, and it's what we'll see right now, that last Pokemon, I think is something that could be very pivotal here, is that Urshifu with the Focus Sash option. Now we've seen the screens come up, something very, very strong to be able to critical hit through those screens once things have been weakened into range of a Wicked Blow.
Now, what's going to be interesting is this Raging Bolt. I want to see exactly how much damage this thing's going to do here. It's got the Assault Vest as well, so it's really bulky behind this Reflect screen, and it's just not looking too good. But maybe your Sword Stance will do enough damage to make that irrelevant. Who knows?
It could, but I wouldn't be too. I wouldn't bet too much on that. Not only were we talking about the strong defensive typings of the lead that Charlotte had out in the field, where nothing was really hit super effectively. Now this Raging Bolt positioned behind a Reflect, even with the boosted Ogerpon on the other side, Raging Bolt resists every single attack that Rosemary has on the field right now.
You know what they say, if you're a One Piece fan, always bet on Kaido, and that's Kaido out there right now, looking at the other side of the screen. Now, we saw the Spiky Shield come out, and it seems like, really good prediction here, not going to take any damage for this turn.
Yeah, so a free Tailwind there for the Tornadus. But it does allow the Grimmsnarl to come back into play. The Tornadus on Rosemary's side, of course, not carrying Taunt, but wouldn't be effective into a Pokemon like Grimmsnarl, a Dark type anyway. This Grimmsnarl now can set up a light screen, mitigate any damage that the Tornadus is doing. Could also try to get a Thunder Wave off pretty early in this game.
Would be really good here. I do like the little bit extra speed control coming from a Thunder Wave and the potential chance for a paralysis.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the big one.
The yellow magic being on the field, there's always a way. 25% of the time, it works every time once you get that out.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Oh, and we do see
not a priority move used by the Grimmsnarl, and it just goes down to a +2 Horn Leech, even with Reflect up. Again, just showing the offensive capability of the Ogerpon on Rosemary's side.
That was one sword stance, dude.
That was just one sword stance.
That's crazy. What Reflect? I don't see a Reflect.
No, Bleakwind does negligible damage, but a critical hit. And that's very important. Without the critical hit, maybe this Ogerpon isn't in range of a Thunderclap the next turn, but now certainly is. And this Urshifu now with the Choice Scarf item isn't able to protect in front of either of these Pokemon.
Nah.
But Charlotte threatening a ton of damage here between the priority move on the Raging Bolt as well as the priority Sucker Punch that Urshifu could throw out.
It makes you actually want to click that defensive option, but we're not going to go for it here.
No, it's a tricky position for both as they're both threatening KOs on the other Pokemon. Tornadus with the Bleakwind Storm into this Urshifu is potentially enough for a one-hit knockout. The Urshifu with a Wicked Blow into potentially either one of these two slots.
Let's see who moves up here first. But first, we're going to see the Terrestrialization coming here for this Urshifu. That's going to be a lot of damage from this Dark typing now. We got the additional stab from that value there. Wow. And now this is going to be really scary. Are we going to see a one-hit?
No priority moves.
Comes out.
Horn Leech comes out. It'll come down to how much damage this Bleakwind Storm that I think Rosemary locked into is going to do. It does connect with both targets.
Oh, it gets
is
the
enough.
Knockout. Oh, that's so tough. Urshifu wasting that Terrestrialization option there. It's a big loss for sure. But hey, could be worse, I guess.
The Raging Bolt still very fine on its HP stat. Clicks the Electroweb. You can see it does very solid damage to both Pokemon on Rosemary's side, able to get some good damage, or good speed control off as well for once the Tailwind does end. But for Charlotte's side, you think back to the turn that the Grimmsnarl was on the field when it was knocked out by the Horn Leech, wasn't able to get an attack off that turn.
Yes.
You think back to if that might have been a Light Screen that turn. Does this Urshifu survive the Bleakwind Storm at half health behind a Light Screen instead of just naturally? Those are the kinds of things that you're thinking about through every single turn, and how one move on turn 2 has a very different effect 3 or 4 turns down the road.
And now we see damage mitigation in the form of this Rain Dance here. It's not going to allow that Fire type to do that much damage with the... Oh, but still, it's... We will still see the Ivy Cudgel come out. No Sword Stance. Charlotte not quite, brazen enough to click that in front of a Tornadus that could do a lot of damage with a super effective Bleakwind Storm. Gets off the Ivy Cudgel right as Tailwind ends. So Rosemary, again, as we were talking in that first matchup with the Tailwind mirror on both sides, it's whoever gets the second Tailwind up has a huge advantage. Even without the mirror on Charlotte's side, if you're able to get a second Tailwind up at your Rosemary, puts your Incineroar in a great position to be faster than both of Charlotte's Pokemon, and puts you in a position where your fourth unrevealed Pokemon to this point is also almost guaranteed to be faster. Although I do like the option of bringing out Incineroar to get that Intimidate option going again, because these guys are stuck here now. Those stat drops are going to be there forever, and the more damage mitigation you have on the list on there, it's going to just...
The Hearthflame Ogerpon.
Yeah, Hearthflame. There you go. I said Hearthflame. Crazy. But yeah, that's going to be...
And
really
it's another
good.
Ivy Cudgel comes out from Charlotte's side. It's not enough.
It's got to be the Rain Dance, the debuffs as well. It's just a lot of damage mitigation here, and it's working very well for Rosemary, and we still don't know that last Pokemon.
Still haven't seen the last Pokemon. Again, though, the Raging Bolt for Charlotte's side still sitting pretty for right now. Not really threatened by a ton of damage. Even the Incineroar that can hit it neutrally with a knockoff has to contend with the Reflect on Charlotte's side.
Speaking of, we see a Spiky Shield coming up over here. Is there going to be an attack from that Incineroar going into it? We do see a KO coming out from the Raging Bolt into that Tornado slot. What do we go for? And it's a knockoff, and it will connect into the Raging Bolt. That's huge, getting rid of that Assault Vest there.
Yeah, Raging Bolt now down to half HP. The Reflect finally wearing off. We've been through 8 turns of this game. And we do see Rosemary's final Pokemon is 2v2, and it is that Urshifu that's going to come out.
That's a really good Pokemon to bring in this last slot here.
Oh, and especially with the Urshifu, with the Tailwind boost, is going to be certainly faster than the Ogerpon on the other side. Allows Urshifu to get, at the very least, 1 attack off, and likely a second because it's holding the Focus Sash item. to just deal a ton of damage. Potentially the Raging Bolt now in range after that last knockoff from Incineroar of a Wicked Blow. And crucially, Rosemary has not committed Terastallization, still has the option for that Terra Dark on the Urshifu to boost that damage output even more.
Oh, and we're going to see something pretty spicy. If this is locked in, he has a parting shot. Wicked Bolt first is going to come out into this Ogre Pond. A critical hit! That's going to go down!
And it doesn't even need the Terra Dark in order to pick up that KO. The parting shot now coming out as, again, the Incineroar under Tailwind outspeeding the Raging Bolt on Charlotte's side. And now there's just a giraffe and a dream, similar to what we saw at the end of Game 2 in Round 1. The Farugiraffe for Brian, and now this Raging Bolt that, with the special attack drop from Parting Shot, not even a 2-hit KO, it looks like.
You can't even say that's a roll. That's just not good. But that's what Parting Shot and all this damage reduction is going to do here. These Pokemon are built for survivability. Not another critical hit, too.
Speaking of survivability, you see from the Raging Bolt, a little bit of information here. For both players. For Rosemary, you know that, wow, this is a very bulky Raging Bolt.
Very bulky. That
it's going to survive. The Wicked Blow from Rosemary's Urshifu, not even enough to pick up a 2-hit KO on this Raging Bolt, where Charlotte also learns, gets that confirmation that, this Urshifu maybe isn't as strong as they were fearing at one point in this game.
Yes. It's going to be a huge adjustment coming into that next round, too.
And a very safe Sucker Punch now from the Urshifu, knowing that the Raging Bolt, with the Assault Vest item, only has attacking moves. Urshifu likely faster than the Raging Bolt. Their Sucker Punch will always move first on Rosemary's side, and that's going to be Game 1 won by Rosemary Kelly.
I gotta say, that was a pretty close game despite how it ended out. Now, just a few adjustments and maybe a couple of choices different, and I think Charlotte might really have a good run back on this next round.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We saw that the Raging Bolt for Charlotte's side, especially with a Reflect Up, is so difficult. So difficult for Charlotte, or for Rosemary's side, to remove from the field. And so I think if Charlotte, can get a couple of turns right, I guess, in Game 2, things like clicking Electroweb to get speed drop so that once Tailwind is over, you have the speed advantage. Or even under Tailwind, if you're able to get, 2 or 3 Electrowebs up onto the field, your Pokemon will all of a sudden still outspeed Rosemary's side of the field, even when they have Tailwind up. You have the option for different forms of control on Charlotte's side that Rosemary doesn't have. And in a matchup where you have 3 or 4 of the same Pokemon, that's where you have to find the difference.
And credit where credit's due, using those moves to reduce the amount of damage coming out from Charlotte too. Parting Shots well positioned, to Intimidate well positioned. The Rain Dance to reduce, that was so sweet. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see. But it was really good positioning from Rosemary here.
Yeah, Rosemary played that extremely well and really got all of the value that you could ever hope for out of Pokemon like the Incineroar and the Tornadus. The Incineroar, as we mentioned a few times throughout that set, doesn't really do that much damage into Charlotte's team. It just kind of sits on the field and can click knockoff and things like that. But really the value is getting Intimidates, controlling the pace of the game with Fake Out, and of course those parting shots you talked about that were crucial in that endgame.
This is exactly why Incineroar is so bittersweet, because it just has so much utility. It does a lot for one Pokemon.
Oh yeah, and we see
the Clefairy!
Now we see the Clefairy come out. The Clefairy and the Urshifu for Charlotte's side, staring down the same lead for Rosemary, the Ogre Pond Wellspring, and the Incineroar. Now, one thing for this Incineroar, if Charlotte does click the Wicked Blow for their Urshifu, not affected by the Intimidate drop because that move always critical hits.
Wow, that's really, really great ability. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so already now for Charlotte's side, doing a much better job just immediately turn 0 on lead in finding a way around the damage mitigation options that Rosemary has as the Fake Out comes into Urshifu and just Swords Dance right away.
Not threatened by that Clefairy in any sense. Gonna go safely for this really powerful Swords Dance. We saw how much damage it was doing in that first game, and now we don't have screens. So we're gonna be seeing a lot of damage coming up from this Ogre Pond.
Oh yeah, and of course, we know the Urshifu with the Choice Scarf item, we saw it flinch before the Ogre Pond acted, the confirmation that the Urshifu on Charlotte's side is already faster. But Clefairy, getting some, I'll say it, that's good chip damage. That's good chip.
That's good chip. We take those.
That's 6 HP on Incineroar. That's important.
That is very important. That means we're one more a hit closer to a foot down. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about.
But now you have the option for Charlotte's side too. the parting shots that the Incineroar threatens, the knockoffs, things like that, really control the pace of the game. Charlotte just redirects this turn with this follow me. We'll see what the Urshifu locks itself into, as it's going to be that Wicked Blow, comes out in the Ogre Pond, and does a lot of damage, but not enough to pick up the one-hit KO as a +2 critical hit.
She in that recovery too. We looking real healthy after that one.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, that's not what you expected.
No, I would have loved to see that without the critical hit. I think Fairy with the Eviolite option likely is trained in a way to survive a +2 Swords Dance boosted Horn Leech, but as you mentioned, the recovery there too maybe puts Ogerpon out of range of another Wicked Blow from Charlotte's Urshifu.
And as we already established, every point counts. Every point of recovery also counts.
Oh yeah, the critical hits are in the same purpose. They're recovering more HP for Ogerpon just as it deletes the Clefairy.
Yeah, literally. We didn't even expect that at all.
No, just the way the game turns sometimes. As now, though, Charlotte still in a pretty strong position. We saw that the Flare Blitz did a lot of damage to Charlotte's Urshifu. Looks like it is likely in range of another Flare Blitz if that's what the Incineroar wants to click. But Charlotte, with the faster Urshifu, we know that Charlotte's Ogerpon we saw in the first game is faster than Rosemary's Ogerpon as well. So the speed control now all of a sudden all on Charlotte's side. So even though Clefairy went down early, still a lot of damage being pressured by Charlotte's side as we see the spiky shield from Ogerpon.
Boy, I wonder if this is going to get... Oh, no, not going to catch them.
Oh, wow.
It hits through the Protect as usual.
Hits through the Protect and the Wood Hammer right into that same slot, too.
That's so good. Urshifu is just amazing. That's so good.
Always critical hits. Doesn't
care.
Doesn't care about protecting the other side, but just like we saw, that recovery that Rosemary got with the Horn Leech puts it out of range of that Wicked Blow.
Yep, that 11 HP almost wasn't there, but that critical hit brought you some more time.
Bought you a little bit more time, and now Tornadus hits the field with a Tailwind. Will all of a sudden push Rosemary's Ogerpon back into the front of...
Yes, sir! Yes, sir!
And we know that Urshifu, even though it does have the option to click something like a Sucker Punch, has been locked into Wicked Blow because of the Choice Scarf item. No threat of priority on Charlotte's side. Rosemary has, you would think, a pretty safe option to click Tailwind plus any attack into Charlotte's position.
Oh, I love this decision to get that out of there. This is not the proper positioning for this Pokemon right now. Go ahead and switch into a much bulkier, much tankier option. Maybe it'll lift up a hit or two from this Ogerpon. We're about to see how much damage is going to come out of it. Horn Leech, here it is. Oh, nice. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing. That's a +2 Ogerpon.
A +2 Ogerpon. We see just how bulky this Raging Bolt is for Charlotte's side. And, again, now, even more importantly, Charlotte doing their best to mitigate the amount of recovery that Ogerpon's going to be receiving from a Horn Leech. You don't allow Ogerpon to get all the HP back from that Urshifu. Now it's in a little bit of a trickier position because a Thunderclap is maybe enough
to get that KO.
Maybe enough to get the KO, but again, we've seen Rosemary's Ogerpon already live quite a few hits.
Yeah, that's true. But here we go, finally seeing a locked-in terrestrialization here.
The Fire-type Terrestrialization in front of a Water-type Ogerpon that we know is faster. A very bold move here from Charlotte. Likely making that call that their Raging Bolt will be able to pick up the KO on Ogerpon with a Thunderclap.
Goes for a Spiky Shield. How interesting.
If Charlotte, or if Rosemary does not click the Spiky Shield option. A Rain Dance here, again mitigating the damage from the Fire-type Ivy Cudgel. And a Thunderclap is going to be failing into likely the Protect from Rosemary's Ogerpon.
Yes. Now, we do see this Ivy Cudgel coming out now into this Tornadus, but it's not going to do nearly as much as you would have hoped, thanks to that Rain Dance there. It's such a good move to just reduce all that fire damage coming out from this Ogerpon, man.
Oh yeah, but very important too is that Charlotte's Ogerpon now shedding the Grass typing is no longer weak to a Bleak Wind Storm. This Tornadus now doesn't really offer that much value. Now that it has set up Tailwind and that it has clicked Rain Dance, it's just going to be clicking a Bleak Wind Storm that is not going to do nearly as much damage into Ogerpon and is resisted by Raging Bolt. Now we come down to the point of the game where I think by the move we saw on Rosemary's side might be playing the mind games of if a Thunderclap is going to come out versus an Electro Web from the Raging Bolt. As the Tornadus not providing as much value anymore, switching out into the Incineroar, getting another Intimidate drop onto the opposing Ogerpon. Will put now Ogerpon, even though it's Terastallized, gotten the +1 to its attack at -1 stage. And a Swords Dance from Ogerpon, but we didn't see a Thunderclap come out.
Whoa.
No Thunderclap from Charlotte's side as the Dragon Pulse is going ahead into Rosemary's Ogerpon. A fantastic play getting that turn right for Charlotte.
I gotta say, I respect the decision to go for a Sword Stance in case you decided not to target this down, but it makes sense to target it down, right? That Tornadus wasn't doing anything. We know its switch out is coming. It's probably going to be a bulkier Pokemon coming in like that Incineroar as usual. So why not just take out this Urshifu? Don't let it get that value.
Yeah. Yeah, and for Rosemary, likely predicting a Thunderclap from Charlotte's side.
Sure.
So using the non-damaging move, Swords Dance, keeping their Ogerpon from taking any damage from the Thunderclap. But for Charlotte, again, like you mentioned, a pretty safe play just to click the Dragon Pulse there as Raging Bolt's going to get flinched by the Fake Out and a Wicked Blow coming out into the Ogerpon. And it's just enough to pick up the KO.
That's so much damage. I was almost shocked at the critical hit, and then I remembered.
Wow.
That's too much damage.
Even with the critical hit, the fact that was essentially a one-hit knockout for a non-Terra Dark boosted Wicked Blow from Rosemary's side. Just an incredibly strong Pokemon that we've seen on both sides, the Dark type Urshifu. It's
been picking up a lot of popularity, and this is why.
For good reason, yeah.
For very good reason. This is it. And of course, that Sucker Punch, always an option just in case. It's just a well-rounded Pokemon.
Yeah, we have seen, though, the Tailwind has run out on Rosemary's side. So Charlotte's Scarf Urshifu is going to be the fastest Pokemon on the field. Threatens a lot of damage into both of Rosemary's Pokemon. Of course, Rosemary has not used Terastallization again in Game 2, just like Game 1, preserving that mechanic until the very end of the game. But close combat, no Terastallization seen, and the close combat is just enough to pick up this Incineroar.
At this point, I do think Incineroar has done more than enough for the team. It going down is not the most biggest factor, but hey, that's one down on the books. We take those as this Wicked Blow comes in and
again,
survival!
We've seen the bulk on Charlotte's side.
And of course, that speed reduction is going to be huge when you're staring down an enemy Urshifu here.
And now an incredible position for Charlotte in this endgame, even though both of their Pokemon at relatively low HP, even with the Tailwind boost, not certain.
Not enough.
You're not certain if the Urshifu on the Rosemary side is going to outspeed the Urshifu on Charlotte's side, but the Thunderclap!
First. Oh no! Wow!
The call from Charlotte to click Thunderclap. Oh, picking up the KO. Now Urshifu Sucker Punch because of the Electro Web the turn prior. Not enough to have a KO, and the close combat coming through.
Oh, man, what a play. What an answer. That's so good.
Wow.
Wow, and we're going to go to the Game 3, baby. That's what I love to see. Yes, sir.
Exactly what you love to see on a screen match. And again, just like we talked about after the Game 1, those turns right at the end of Tailwind, if Charlotte just gets those right, things go very, very differently that first game, and we just saw that there. Getting every single turn right, clicking Dragon Pulse on the turn that Ogerpon Swords Dance, clicking Thunderclap on the turn that Tornadus attacked, and the turn prior, extremely important move to use Electro Web, which is not a 100% accurate move. It's weaker than a Dragon Pulse, so you're doing less damage to the opposing Urshifu, but the speed drop to allow your Raging Bolt to be faster than the next turn, just coming in so clutch in that end game, as now we can see some of the options that Charlotte has.
I'm coming in just for a second. Because our system is a little not updated, that Raikou is not Raikou. It's supposed to be Raging Bolt, but I'm putting it there just as a placement. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you from the voice in the sky, Gerd. And it's the same Pokemon. It's just Raikou, but a couple million years later. Same on Rosemary's side as well. It's just a Raikou, just a pre-version of Raikou. We're looking at beta Raikou right now. Just coming in, but again, you see a lot of the options that both these players have. We haven't seen the Golden Go come out from either side.
No.
I think a lot of that's just the respect that both players have for the opposing Raging Bolt, a Pokemon that with the Assault Vest option is extremely specially defensive, has Snarl as well to mitigate any boost that you get from a Nasty Plot. as now we're heading into the pivotal Game 3, and it's another
And
Clefairy
yes,
and Urshifu
sir.
lead against the Ogerpon and the Incineroar, just running it back from Game 2.
I like the decision to keep the Clefairy on board. We didn't get to see it do a lot, but
No.
it does provide a defensive value. It was unfortunate that we saw the critical hit in that first game, but I believe it would have survived that if it wasn't.
Oh yeah, and for Charlotte's side, if Charlotte has that same line of thinking that, without that critical hit, Clefairy survives the +2 Horn Leech, I'm then able to redirect the Incineroar's Flare Blitz. Urshifu doesn't take nearly as much damage on this first turn. Things become very, very different, but now immediately switching out the Urshifu.
I like this. I like this decision. The bulk is there. It's definitely really good with that friend card. Fake out's not going to do nearly anything.
And
We
an
see the
immediate
Ivy
Ivy Cudgel comes
Into
out.
the right, that was the great switch. That's what I'm talking about. Into the icy wind here, but Incineroar's gonna dodge. I mean, he's pretty slow already. It's not the biggest deal.
I stand by it. That 6 HP that the Icy Wind would have
Yes,
done,
sir.
that would have been good shit. That would have been important. But hitting the important target of the Ogerpon on the other side, now it comes down to, how is Rosemary's Ogerpon trained? We've seen that it is clearly very, very bulky. The amount of damage that it's been able to take throughout both games so far. Will Ogerpon with -1 speed stat be able to outspeed Raging Bolt still, or will Charlotte's Pokemon now have the speed advantage? And Raging Bolt now, we've already talked about how difficult it has been for Rosemary to remove from the field of play.
Yes.
Now with the Friend Guard
Guard,
boost?
dude? Oh, come on, dude. That's what I'm talking about. You know what? Here comes the Follow Me. We're going to see what moves Rosemary went for here.
An Electro-Up, so we do have confirmation that the Raging Bolt, faster than Ogerpon with -1 speed stat, continues to lower the speed on both sides as a Horn Leech unboosted.
Look at that.
We do see now, you can make that inference that with 0 stages of attack increase, that Horn Leech doing less than half of Clefairy's HP. So at +2 attack last game, without the critical hit, does not look like it would have been nearly enough to get that one-hit KO.
Not a bad turn, but still, you gotta say Charlotte is not necessarily in the greatest position. Neither of these Pokemon are offensive in the slightest. Like, okay, Raging Bolt does hit with a decent punch. Let me stop the cap. But we're also staring down some really powerful Pokemon on the other side too, and you're not really pushing advantage, but we're going for speed control. But what does that buy us in the long term? Are we going to see another switch? No, we're going to see a Protect instead.
Clefairy protects, and important there too that Clefairy did lose its Eviolite item at the end of last turn with the knockoff from Incineroar. Ogerpon will target into the Raging Bolt, but again,
nothing.
With Friend Guard and the Dragon typing, not doing too much damage. Charlotte definitely winning the damage trade that turn, but losing a stage of special attack on the Raging Bolt as Incineroar parting shots out, and we'll see what is going to come in its stead. Again, a very important position. Seeing here now, on our side at least, confirmation that Rosemary has brought the same set of 4 Pokemon here. Going out into Urshifu, a Pokemon that we know is, should be trained faster than Charlotte's Raging Bolt, but does not have a move that hits the opposing Clefairy super effectively at all.
Not at all. I mean, but do you really prioritize this Clefairy? I mean, getting rid of the Friend Guard is actually pretty good, but you don't usually want to attack into the support Pokemon. You want to get rid of the things around it, right? But again, there's not much you can hit this Raging Bolt with. What do you do? I mean, there's Urshifu.
There's Urshifu, but we've seen the Wicked Blow really not do too much damage in games 1 and 2, and again, that was without Clefairy on the field next to the Raging Bolt. You're really not threatening, I guess on either side, a whole ton of damage as Clefairy will quick follow me. A very safe play there. And now it all comes down to what the Urshifu clicks. A Wicked Blow, even without Eviolite, Clefairy able to hang on from that hit.
Wow, that's a lot of bulk on this little fairy here.
And an Electroweb maintaining speed advantage on Charlotte's side. Now the Urshifu with the speed drop. Ogerpon loses a little bit of HP, and Clefairy, thank you for your service.
You did good.
Has done so much to allow the Raging Bolt to just sit on the field, really whittle down Rosemary's side. And to this point of the game, extremely importantly, has prevented Rosemary from getting the Tailwind up. So allowing this Choice Scarf Urshifu to come back onto the field, be the fastest thing on the field.
No, we can see a one-hit KO right here. Well, not from full HP, but from that opposing Urshifu into this Urshifu slot, right? So Rosemary's looking really, really scary right now because you're not the fastest one anymore, and that's where we're going to see this switch coming out for Rosemary. Good decision, going right into this Incineroar back at it, gonna get that attack drop. That's a good decision.
Yeah, Rosemary, we'll see coming up here, but switches out both Pokemon, resets the speed drops on both, extremely important.
Smart.
But giving up a lot of momentum to Charlotte, where Charlotte just gets 2 free attacks this turn, but the Thunderclap coming out, it will fail as a close combat into the Incineroar that just switched in, but with the attack drop on the Urshifu from Intimidate, not enough to pick up the KO.
20 HP left on this Incineroar. Can it still provide a decent amount of value? At this point, you're hoping for it to get knocked out so you can get another free switch into whatever you want in the back, right? But not before we can get a cheeky little party shot, hopefully.
Yeah, the Incineroar
Or a fake out.
does recover some HP very nicely after that Citrus Berry from the last turn, but Rosemary now threatening some damage with this Tornadus as the fake out comes into Raging Bolt. Another close combat will take out the Incineroar.
But how much damage?
Yeah, with 2 stages of special attack lowered from the Urshifu. We saw the Bleak Windstorm locked in on Rosemary's side. All comes down to if it connects.
Oh, this connect is going to be huge. It does connect on both Pokemon. That's... Woo! That's gone. Goodbye, Urshifu.
I think that would have KO'd about 2 or 3 Urshifu with that level of special defense drop. Yeah.
That's funny.
Important, of course, the Bleak Windstorm not hitting or not doing too much damage into the Raging Bolt. But now, the Ogre Pond very, very weak at this point. The Raging Bolt on Charlotte's side, had never switched out, so still does have the special attack drop from a parting shot earlier in the game. I think that's very important, very relevant for the end game here. But it comes down to, what can Rosemary do with the Tailwind turns that she's threatening right now?
I definitely feel like a Tailwind is pretty good right now. But, again, Ogre Pond doesn't threaten really any super effective moves on either side.
Yeah, and again, for both players, they've done a great job of preserving Terastallization. Charlotte, earlier in games 1 and 2, had Terastallized, but now has held on to it for either the Raging Bolt or this Fire-type Ogre Pond. Rosemary, we're seeing her contemplate the Terastallization on Tornadus here, trying to figure out exactly how to pathway through this endgame, where you really don't want your Tornadus to be weak to the Electric-type moves from the Raging Bolt that we know has been a problem, but going and committing to the Terastallization of a Steel type, all of a sudden that makes you weak to the IV Cudgels that Charlotte can throw off. And we are going to see the Terastallization, yes. Is going to come out on Rosemary's side. It is going to be the Terra Steel committed onto Rosemary's Tornadus.
I like the decision, trying to remove that super effective from the electric attacks coming out of Charlotte's side here.
But Charlotte does Spiky Shield. I think that's a very important move to protect from any damage. The Thunderclap comes down to Ogre Pond with the special attack drop, not enough to pick up the KO. But this Ivy Cudgel and another Bleak Windstorm going to go into the protect of Charlotte's Ogre Pond. And we've already seen the Bleak Windstorm not doing too much damage to this Raging Bolt.
Yeah, basically healing it. That's looking pretty good for this Raging Bolt.
It's not nothing, though.
It's not nothing.
It's not nothing. That the Bleak Windstorms, we've seen, I think 3 of them already land into the Raging Bolt. This provided pretty good value, putting it down closer and closer to range of a Wicked Blow from the Urshifu in the back.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I gotta say, it's looking really good for Rosemary right now. The positioning seems like it's in their favor, just getting enough chip damage on this Raging Bolt. Ogre Pond not really doing too much on the other side either, I'm not sure what the next play is for Charlotte.
The tricky part here is for Rosemary is how do you get the value out of your Tornadus now that it's Terastallized to a Steel type in this game that you got out of the first 2 games, able to both get Tailwind up and Rain Dance. Will Rosemary's Tornadus be able to do that? Now you're weak to this +1 Terra Fire boosted Ivy Cudgel.
That's scary, dude.
From Charlotte's side that they're throwing out. The Rain Dance does come out. But now that Tornadus is weak to this move, there's the attack boost instead of the attack drop. A Thunderclap will hit the Ogre Pond. Another turn getting right there for the Raging Bolt, and it just comes down to how much damage this Ivy Cudgel's going to do. Again, +1, Terastallization boosted, now super effective into the Tornadus.
And
it's a one-hit KO!
That's so good! The rain didn't matter anyway, bro!
The rain... Wow.
So good. Wow. That's a lot of damage, bro.
Charlotte's never cared about a rainy day a day in their life, and now it's all down to this Urshifu that has no spread options for it. No Tailwind to be set up.
Nope.
No Tailwind set up on that side. Staring down a Raging Bolt with a priority Thunderclap as well as an Ogerpon that is likely trained to be a little bit faster than the Urshifu with a +1 attack boost. Thunderclap still doing good damage into the Urshifu, and a Wood Hammer at +1 will seal it for Charlotte Schottenthaler to be our victor here in round 2 at Balance Patch. And
that was incredible.
Just an incredible set.
Incredible set. Honestly, both players played out of their minds, but like, come on, that rain dance was so clutch. But you know what they say, when it rains, it pours, and unfortunately, Rosemary's going to take the L on this one.